Do you trust your doctor to give you advice on how to lose weight? Maybe you shouldn't. And I'll tell you why. And doctors will agree with me on this. In fact, doctors themselves say that they are unsure what advice to give patients, lack knowledge about the best ways to lose weight, and don't feel the advice they give will be effective. What you're about to see are real quotes from real doctors giving weight loss advice to patients. And it's truly unbelievable how bad it is. Just imagine going to the doctor's office expecting to get sound advice based on science and clinical experience from a highly educated and experienced doctor trained to give you advice on your health. And then your doctor tells you this. I would certainly advise you to look at ways of maybe changing lifestyle a bit to try and lose weight. Right. So how do I do that? Or maybe your doctor tells you to look at your diet. Okay. Now what? Sorry, just had to do that. Or they might tell you to be careful what you eat and follow proper dietary guidelines. Yeah, that still doesn't really help. Or how about this one? Otherwise, it's a question of sort of portion control, really, and trying to get as much exercise as your joints will allow. So, just to get this straight, you're telling me to eat less and move more, right? How didn't I think of that? According to researchers analyzing these recordings, the prevalence of a general eat less, do more messaging from clinicians exemplifies their lack of knowledge of effective advice. And I couldn't agree more. Actually, in only 28% of the recorded consultations, doctors advise their patients to make dietary changes in order to lose weight. Let that sink in for a second. To be fair, they were told to give brief advice to their patients about losing weight at the end of their consultations. Though still, in 72% of the consultations when doctors were giving advice to patients on losing weight, they didn't actually mention to make dietary changes. And not only that, in only 3% of the consultations, doctors made recommendations to change food choices. In only 3%. And those of you who have been following me know that the most important thing is the types of food that you eat, is really what determines how easily you lose weight. Depending on the types of food you eat, you may basically be programming your metabolism into storing more fat and even increasing hunger, making it very difficult to lose weight by eating less and moving more, which really is a way to try to force our body into doing something it doesn't want to do. That's why it feels so difficult. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate if you gave it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, share it with a friend, and follow me on Instagram at VikingIngunn for lots more weight loss tips and truth. Now, some doctors gave a bit more specific advice, though without any evidence or justification for what they said, saying things like, striding up a hill will burn more calories than running on the flat. That's not necessarily true at all. Now, this pretty much sums it up. Clinicians mostly do not provide effective advice, and so even if patients were to follow the advice, they would be unlikely to lose weight. Now, I'm not saying this to be mean to doctors. I have a ton of respect for doctors. They can literally save lives. But that doesn't mean they know anything about the best ways to lose weight or about nutrition in general. In fact, doctors themselves confirm that they barely get any nutrition education. One survey amongst cardiologists found that 52% of them either received no nutrition education in medical school or just one lecture or part of one lecture. I mean, how much can you learn in one lecture or even just part of a lecture? And during residency, 70% of cardiologists either received no nutrition education or one lecture or part of one lecture. And a whopping 90% of cardiologists either did not recall receiving any nutrition education during fellowship training or received minimal nutrition education and didn't feel adequately prepared for counseling patients. Another paper analyzing studies from around the world found that nutrition is insufficiently incorporated into medical education regardless of country, setting, or year of medical education. And specifically when it comes to weight loss, some of the main things doctors report is lack of confidence in treatment, meaning they don't actually believe believe you're going to lose weight based on what they tell you to do, and that they're not confident in their own skills and knowledge in talking to you about how to lose weight. Again, I'm not blaming doctors for this, it's just not something that's a focus in their education and training. And most of them wouldn't even have time to read up on research, this type of research, in order to stay on top of new findings. And not only that, I'm sorry to add salt to the wound here, but remember how one of the doctors said to be careful what you eat and follow proper dietary guidelines. Where do you find this so-called proper dietary advice? By the way, we'll get to that. First, I just want to say welcome back to my channel. In case you don't know me, I'm Ingunn, a Norwegian Viking. I quit my career working with physics and mathematics years ago to instead use these analytical skills to research nutrition and weight loss science, and to actually help people from around the world lose weight in an easier way using simple methods that actually work, based on science, common sense, and experience. So subscribe to my channel to follow along for a different look at how to lose weight. So where do you find this so-called proper dietary advice? A lot of people would look to the government-issued dietary guidelines, such as the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, which a lot of nutritionists and even doctors look to as well. Though, as I mentioned in a previous video, as this paper points out, 95% of committee members had conflict of interest with the food and or pharmaceutical industries, and that particular actors including Kellogg, Abbott, Kraft, Mead Johnson, General Mills, Denon, and the International Life Sciences had connections with multiple members. So you simply cannot trust that when they tell you to eat this or that or avoid this or that, that it's for the sake of your health. For example, the dietary guidelines still tell you to limit saturated fat intake to less than 10% of your calories, implying that it causes or contributes to coronary heart disease, when in fact we have known for a long time now that there is no real evidence that it does. Now, I'm not saying that you should eat a ton of saturated fat. Some people like to take it to the extreme. Though if you try to limit the intake to what they tell you to, you may miss out on some amazingly nutritious food. And not only that, they tell you to actually replace butter, which we humans have been consuming for a very long time. They tell you to replace it with vegetable oils such as sunflower oil or soybean oil that have only really been part of our diet for the last half century. So the way we eat it today is really not, or arguably not, a natural part of a human's diet. And as I've mentioned before, these oils are extremely high in a certain type of fat called linoleic acid, which is a very unstable type of fat, and it actually causes LDL cholesterol within your body to oxidize, which is actually an indicator of heart disease. So yeah, it can be difficult to know who to trust when it comes to both nutrition and weight loss. I mean, let's get back to weight loss. If you're looking to lose weight naturally and in a sustainable way, how do you know how to do that if even your doctor doesn't know how? I mean, we've all heard the eat less, move more, eat more veggies approach. It just doesn't work. Not for most people anyway. Because it doesn't fix the real cause of why we gained excess fat in the first place. Like I said, it's basically a way to try to force our body into doing something it doesn't want to do. That's why it feels so difficult. Losing weight doesn't need to be that difficult. Of course it takes effort. If you want something to change, you have to change something. So it obviously requires effort and persistency as well, because you're not going to lose all the weight in one day. Though still, the strategies that you use in order to lose weight will determine how easily you lose the weight. And for specific strategies on how to make it easier, check out this video right here, which I'll link to below. Now let's look at why we gained excess fat in the first place. Let's just look at it from the most basic point of view, calories in versus calories out. Let's start with calories in. If it's true that we're consuming too many calories, then why are we doing that? Maybe because we're hungry. That's the main driver, isn't it? So what is it that affects our hunger? Actually, there's a lot of different things, including our hormones, our gut health, the health of our metabolism. The one thing that affects all of these is the food that we eat. Basically, the food we eat is the main thing that affects our hunger one way or another, and therefore how many calories we consume. And the good news is that you are 100% in control of what you eat. Now let's look at calories out. When it comes to losing weight, people will tell you to exercise more in order to burn more calories, increasing your calories out. Though physical activity is only a small part of your calories out. And as I've explained in previous videos, your body will compensate for a lot of the calories that you burn during exercise by burning fewer calories on other tasks within the body. So it's not like you'll increase calories out proportionately with the amount of exercise that you're doing. The more exercise you're doing, the less you may end up increasing your calories out. Unless you exercise to increase your muscle mass, which can actually help boost your metabolism. Anyway, it's not only the amount of exercise that you do that determines how many calories you burn. The types of food that you eat also has a direct effect, simply because the body will spend different amount of energy digesting different types of food. Plus, the health of your metabolism also has a lot to say here. And your metabolism is influenced by, among other things, your thyroid hormones and the amount of lean muscle mass that you have. And once again, one of the main things that affect all of these things is the food that you eat. Actually, the food you eat may even have an effect on how much you move your body. Because if you don't fuel your body right, you won't have the energy to spend to move your body. Listen, there's a lot of things we cannot control. Our genes, for example, may play a role in how easily we lose weight or gain weight. Though one of the main things that we are in control of is our diet, the specific foods that we eat. Obesity is a modern world problem. We didn't have this problem for most of our existence on this planet. So why now? The types of food we're eating are very different. They are nutrient poor. They contain additives that mess with our gut, hunger, metabolism. They contain foods arguably not natural for us humans that also affect how our body functions. There's a lot to it. There's not just one cause, though the main thing is arguably the types of food that we eat. And once again, the great news is that you are 100% in control of what you eat. And really, the best way to see the effect the types of food you eat has on your body is to test it out yourself. So instead of trying to use willpower to eat less without actually changing your diet, meaning you continue to eat the foods that have led you to gain excess fat, which even if you manage to just eat less of that same diet, it's not sustainable. I mean, no one can walk around hungry forever. Not happily anyway. So instead of doing that, why not try to focus on the one thing that you are 100% in control of and that affects everything that we just talked about, namely the type of foods that you eat. Once again, can you believe that the doctors that we spoke about in the beginning of this video, that in only 3% of the consultations they recommended to change the food? Again, it's not their fault. Plus, this doesn't mean that there aren't doctors out there that are very knowledgeable about nutrition and weight loss. They're just hard to come by. To find the best ways to lose weight, we need to understand how the human body works, what affects our metabolism, hunger, cravings. We need to both dive into the science and at the same time use common sense and try to find the best ways to apply all of it in a simple way to everyday life. And that's basically what I've been doing for the past 5 years of my life. And I'm telling you this because if you're looking to lose 15, 20, 30, 50 pounds or more, I truly believe you won't find another way out there to do it as easily and sustainably as this. I've done the work, I've done the research, and I've found a simple way to apply it to everyday life. And because I've already done it, you don't have to. You don't need to understand all of this because I have made it into a 90-day step-by-step weight loss program that people from all over the world have joined, with simple video instructions and support from me personally throughout. To find out more and to join, go to slimbyscience.com. You'll find the link in the description of this video. Now, I would love to give you more specific advice on how to lose weight more easily, foods to focus on, foods that you might want to avoid because of how they affect your metabolism. Though to not make this into an hour-long video, I will refer you to a few other videos to watch where you'll find more practical tips on what to do. And you may also want to download my free 10-minute ultimate starter guide, which also includes 7 foods that may wreak havoc on your metabolism and slow your progress. So you may want to remove those foods. Check the description below this video for the links. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate if you give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, share it with a friend. Here are 2 videos you'll want to check out next. Enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one.